welcome to all of you again. This is going to be our last session for a bit, but before we go off on the holidays, I want to say to you how much I've enjoyed teaching you, first of all. I think you've been a fantastic group, absolutely fantastic, and it's been an enormous privilege for me to share extensive reading with you, because obviously I believe in it, but I have the sense that you're all enjoying it and taking advantage of it too. So what I'd like to have now is a discussion amongst ourselves. I might ask a few questions, but if you want to ask each other questions about your experience, that would be great too. I think I'll start off, so that you don't feel shy about starting, by asking you, what do you think reading has done for you this term? Do you think well, tell me, don't let me prompt you. What do you think reading has done for you this term, reading extensively? Yes?
It helps us to imagine different characters and different situations. So we have had the possibility to enter in the story and to have new feelings. Yes.
I think that's great. You like the life of the imagination,
Yes.
And you think that's very important. Do we agree, or do we read for other reasons too, do you think? We've talked about imagination and being able to stimulate that. What else do we like to do with reading?
I agree, and I think this is another way to have some lessons, some English lessons, and it helped me to improve my English too.
You felt, why did you feel it helped you improve your English?
It was so spontaneous to do extensive reading.
Yeah.
Because you chose what you
wanted to read. Yeah. I think choice is very important too. I think you said something quite interesting then about spontaneity. I think one thing that happens very often when we're in school, for teachers too, of course, is that we've planned a lesson, we think it's going to go in a certain way, we're going to cover something, and we're going to do it. And so everybody is sort of like on a train track. Right, today we're going to do the simple present perfect, and that's it. That's the only subject we're going to have. 30 minutes we're going to do the simple present perfect. And whereas with extensive reading, we don't know where the lesson will go. It's spontaneous. It may go off in a completely new direction. We may revise a part of grammar that we hadn't seen for some time. And that is helpful too, because what happens when we're talking, when we find ourselves in a situation with people? Have we planned all the conversation?
No.
You have to be fast.
You have to be fast. You have to learn to think quickly. And extensive reading gives you these opportunities to be creative with language, but it sustains you because you have the story to talk about. You have the story that gives you some background information and words. We did activities that showed you how we could use words. Okay, would anyone else like to say something about these lessons and how they felt about learning English in these lessons?
You can learn a lot staying together, staying with other people.
Yeah.
Using imagination, and
Cooperation.
with other people. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you agree that working in groups is helpful?
Yes.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. Why do you think that?
I think that the fact that working in groups should be more efficient in this type of activity instead of to be learned by a teacher.
Yeah.
Because we are all at the same level and we all can understand the other's problem because they might be our problems too.
Right. I think that's very important. You can. It means that you're not exposed. It's not like when you have to go up to the front of the class and do the interrogation at the front of the class, the interaction straight with the teacher, you're actually supporting yourselves towards finding the solution and exploring it. And because you all have been particularly good about doing the activities in English, you have actually been practicing much more English than you normally do. Because very often, in a normal lesson, we speak in Italian. The teacher or I will explain to you what the topic is in Italian, and then, because it's points of grammar often, it's easier to explain these things in Italian and not in English. Whereas with the books, we're talking at a level that is accessible. Tell me, what do you feel about the different levels of books? Is that helpful, do you think? Or do you prefer to read at higher levels? Tell me about that. What do you feel about the levels? Are you happy if you're at a very high level, maybe reading a level 2 book or a level 1 book? Does it bother you?
The difference of the levels gave us the possibility to improve and to understand how we can learn and what we could learn. We could read also about the book. For example, if I start with the last level, I didn't understand how reading the adult books could be. So
yeah, that's very good. I can speak from my own personal experience, is that I really quite enjoy level 1 books because the stories are always quite good. I want to see what happens at the end. And that's the important thing here. We're not reading for high literature. You know, this is not us reading Dickens or Jane Austen or Shakespeare. We'll do that later. But we'll only do that well if we have the capacity to read quickly and well at an easier level. Just like you learned to read in Italian when you were little children, and you started at a very simple level, and then maybe you got more excited and you started reading Topolino, again, which was very supported because it had lots of pictures. Then you gradually got to being fluent readers in Italian. You're doing the same thing here to become fluent readers in English, and then when it comes to having to read Wordsworth's poetry, or to do Beowulf, or to look at Chaucer, or maybe even, some of you might think about studying English at university, you will find that reading those more difficult texts, they're challenging texts even for native speakers. It's very, very difficult to read literary English for modern readers, because we're just not used to those long sentences anymore. A Dickens sentence can go on for a whole paragraph of subordination, and you sort of say, where's the subject here? And you panic, you're drowning in words. This way, you actually have the tools with which to unpack those more difficult tasks. I want to talk, you all, this particular group is all very, very able. You're clearly very good at English, and you've studied hard, and you've done very, very well. What do you think about this program for less able students? Do you think it supports them? Or do you think we could do things differently? What do you think? Think about your experience with other members of your class who maybe don't like the idea of reading or find it very difficult or are frightened about it. What do you think?
I think that is useful also for them, because from the level 1 or 2 they can improve their English, so for everyone it's very important.
Very good. I think you're right. I think the idea of levels supporting students is very important. I think that doing activities, many of the activities we did today were with books that you had chosen, that you were actually reading. So many of you, of course, were reading quite high-level books. But the point is, if you're doing an activity as a less able student with a lower-level book, it means you can do the activity all the same, because you will be able to find the kinds of words we are doing in the activity. You choose them, and that gives you power. It's not the teacher saying, you must do that. It's you choosing to do it, okay? So I think to round up, does anyone want to add anything else before I close? You want to?
Also to sharing the same interest with.
I think that's lovely.
With a group of people.
I think that's very true. I have to say, I think with this group we all share a passion for the supernatural, don't we?
Because it's easier to speak with another student than with the teacher.
Yeah.
It's more normal for us to speak to each other without marks or without a lesson.
Absolutely.
Defined.
Yes, without marks, without a lesson. I think that's very important. As a teacher, I can say that this is my favorite kind of teaching because I can listen to you and you have a real voice in my lesson. I am not the person who's the authority. We must do this today, and at the end of the lesson, we will test it to see whether you know it. This, I feel, is much more natural. And if we think of how teaching happened in history, we think of the Socratic method. Gertie agrees. If we think of the Socratic method, that was people sitting in a circle, like we are now, exchanging ideas, asking questions, and so forth. What I'd like to do is thank you all very, very, very much again for your fantastic contribution to this program. Thank you.